But don't you get the feeling that you're kind of doing the same thing to the newly elected officials by pushing this? Excuse me, let me just finish.
Okay.
That you are pushing this appointment under these circumstances when the newly elected officials have not even had a chance to partake in the process.
And I completely understand that, and they could certainly abstain. We went through a process. The court never said that we could not go through that process. What the court said was that the three or the officials who were not going to be seated here in January could not vote on that process, could not vote to enact the decision of that process. They didn't say that the four people who were going to be on that council and went through that process could not vote on that. You have already said that you are going to recuse yourself. Since the four here have already gone through that process, we have made that decision. It doesn't appear that going through the process again and relitigating that or having second interviews is really going to change that.
So if this were a situation where four newly elected officials came in and told you, as say a holdover councilwoman, that here's a resolution, this is going to be our new city manager effective right now today, and you had no chance to interview that person or go over his background, and I just told you, well, he was the city manager up in Albany for 2 years.
And that happens quite frequently, Frank.
And you would not have a problem with it.
That happens quite frequently.
And is it right?
It is what it is.
Is it right?
It can be right. If what you're going to say is that, you know, yeah, no.
Just close it halfway.
Let me just interject.
Before you do that, Benny, Councilman, and I don't know how you want to be addressed. I'm very.
You can call me by my first
Okay.
Just don't call him Boo.
I won't do that. Okay. But Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say I understand, and I can understand, you know, what the feeling is here. But this is not a process that was done in the 11th hour. This process started earlier. And I know you guys received the resumes, so you had an opportunity to look at the resumes of all of the candidates.
Actually, we haven't. That's not true.
I received a resume for Mr. Johnson on Monday afternoon. I did request to see the rest of the candidates' resumes just to have an idea.
Well, I have to say that the prior judge never submitted a resume.
What did you request?
I sent it to so everybody was copied on the email. You were copied as well.
You went to Lizette.
I just replied to all when Lizette had sent it.
on the email?
Whoever Lizette had on the email chain.
I'll check with Lizette. I know I didn't get that.
You did, because I was on the email. I saw it.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, and getting back to what Darren said, and not to get off on the wrong foot here, and we will abstain, we plan on abstaining if we don't have an opportunity. Obviously, I'm not comfortable appointing a 10-year city judge in a term where I know nothing about this individual other than a review of his resume a couple days ago. You know, it's just not something that I think is in my due diligence and the public trust to do such. And having a fresh start and understanding that we really and truly do, and make no mistake about it, really want to work and leave our partisanship at the door here in City Hall, because it's really not something that I'm interested in arguing about on a week-to-week basis for a number of different issues. I think we need to move things forward here. But this is just something that's very important. I know you realize the importance of this, and that's why you have done probably your due diligence, but we just haven't had that opportunity.
This is the sixth time he said due diligence since I've...
We may not be able to talk about some other things that we may not have discussed, given our background, especially Frank as a lawyer. Then that's your call. But
and about
we're
the
just
12th time he's made reference to Frank. I mean, to Frank himself has made reference to him.
I think that we have done a very good job at screening and looking at our candidate is a very fine candidate. The credentials, you saw it, I don't know if you were here at the last meeting or you saw it televised, but professional, residents, co-workers, people have spoke on his behalf, so I think we have the right candidate. I can understand the process, but in doing business in the city, there's a lot of things that may have happened, you know, September to December that you weren't privy to that are just, you know, things that have to go forward. So I do understand what you're saying, but I think at this point, we're doing our ceremonies today, we're starting off on the right foot, and I think we should just move this forward.
That's a consensus. Joe, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think just by rushing into this, and we could put this off until the next meeting, because it is a big appointment. For 10 years, that's a big appointment. I think we should really take our time, and we should get a chance to discuss it, because we haven't. You're happy because you already went through this. We have no idea what's going on as far as what other candidates were interviewed. Does anybody know? Can anybody tell us? Was there?
Well, we know that Judge Marr was, but who was the third candidate? Because I heard it was an attorney in town, and I heard her name, but I've been here 32 years and I've never heard of her.
She
Can we?
practices right on your street. I believe. Is it-
What's her name?
Is that public information?
Should be.
Well,
So we can't even know the name.
but I mean, because that's something that's executive session, because it's HR.
It was conducted in executive session, yeah.
Right.
So we're not even permitted to know the name of the third candidate.
In executive
You
session.
can go to executive, yeah, absolutely.
Really? That's not executive session.
Well, when you interview somebody,
Qualifications,
yeah, qualifications.
qualifications are.
I'm not talking about her qualifications. I just wanted to know who the person was that interviewed. I'm not going to use a lot of executive sessions in this administration, I can tell you that.
That's good. I really hope not. That's
That's good.
good.
Okay. On the order of precedence, I'm going to also, by the way, just briefly say what I said here upstairs so the public knows my position. My abstention should not be interpreted as a negative vote against Mr. Johnson. I think if you ask him when he was appointed, Wednesday, I think, before Thanksgiving, outside of his family and maybe close political friends of his, I think I was probably the first person that contacted him and congratulated him on his appointment. I knew him socially just by virtue of the campaign, and he seems like a pleasant guy. He's a young, compared to me, he's a young guy, and sorry, that's the White House. They can wait.
Oh my God.
But he seemed like a nice guy. We were down at the Westchester Fair Campaign Practices Committee.
You were.
I think I beat him 5 out of 8 cases, or maybe it was the other way around.
I think it might have been the other way around. Mr. Mayor.
But he was a nice guy, and I did call him and congratulated him. I offered to meet with him to congratulate him, and I think that he would reiterate that. So I do wish him well, and obviously everything we do here should be in the best interest of the city.
What, that it was the other way around?
It's also, I think, going to be a very historic appointment, given that we've never had an African American.
On the order of precedence, this has been going back
He
and
just
forth for a while in
interrupts
the press,
people.
And,
In the same way he
position of
started
deputy
the
mayor is a
meeting.
position that needs to be
Oh my
approved by the
God.
common council. It's been a common courtesy that the mayor picks his deputy mayor, or her deputy mayor. The argument that I've heard here is that and the council basically grants the mayor that courtesy. That's all it is. It's a courtesy. I understand the politics of the situation. I wish that it weren't that way, but I'm going to ask you for the same courtesy that's been afforded every other mayor, and that the mayor designate his deputy mayor and the council approve it. If it's a question of experience, that wasn't the case when Mayor Foster became mayor and appointed Don Bennett in place of Kathy Bizzani, who had been on the council for, I don't know, 60 years or 30 years. She was around. She was on the council for many, many years.
God.
Served the city well. So it's not so much a question of that. As far as I know, it's kind of a pro forma thing. They do some weddings in the absence of the mayor. It's not really a substantial thing where somebody's going to take over City Hall in a day or two.
It's
that
like
the mayor's out of town.
Gotham City.
So anyway, I'm going to ask you for that courtesy.